China is getting more involved in the Ukraine war and is sounding alarm in the West, while the West warns that China may send weapons. Experts are undecided about Beijing's goals and the endgame. However, they agree that China does not want Russia to lose. Despite its claims of neutrality, the best editors give you the stories you want, delivered straight every weekday. Access your favorite topics on the go in a personalized stream. After being largely on sidelines in first year of Ukraine war, China is moving towards greater involvement in conflict. China's full support to the Kremlin or Russia's supply of weapons such as drones and cannons could precipitate a wave of consequences both on and off the stalemate battlefield. Chinese experts say Beijing does not want Russian President Vladimir Putin to fail in Ukraine, but it is still unclear how far it will go to help the Kremlin in exchange for benefits such as buying Russian oil at high discounts. China doesn't want to get too involved in the war and wants to keep its options open. Susan Thornton, the former Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs, told Insider, he doesn't want war continue with all the instability, but he also doesn't want Russia to lose or regime collapse, Thornton added. But other experts see little sign that China wants the conflict to end soon. Despite the long-term risks of a more direct confrontation with Western powers, China wants to see war prolonged without the humiliation of Russia. June Teufel Dreyer, a China expert at University of Miami, told Insider. Dreyer explained that prolonging conflict would further deplete the West's weapons stockpiles and cost a lot of money in face of China making money. Both could be beneficial if China decides to take action against Taiwan. A man watches a news broadcast showing the Chinese People's Liberation Army military operations near Taiwan on August 3, 2022. Western leaders and officials have repeatedly warned that China is watching Ukraine closely for lessons on Taiwan, which Beijing views as a breakaway province. If Ukraine eventually falls, which seems unlikely given current situation, then there are concerns that China will see this as a sign of the right time to follow Putin's lead and forcefully take over self-governing island democracy. Although China claims to be neutral in war, it declared an unlimited partnership with Russia last year and refused to condemn the Kremlin for invasion. Chinese state media echoed Kremlin's propaganda about war, and Chinese government condemned West for imposing sanctions on Russia, in a sign of deepening ties between Moscow and Beijing. China's top diplomat traveled to the Russian capital last week during U.S. President Joe Biden's visit to Kiev. Taking a neutral position in the Ukraine war has been a net negative for China, because that's hardly the positive support Russia wants. And it's certainly not true neutrality that would at least appease NATO. Dreyer said Beijing should take sides against its strategic partnership with Moscow. Dreyer said China had a lot gained from abandoning its supposedly neutral stance, including access to copious amounts of Russian oil, and Moscow's potential become a junior partner, more than Beijing already is. We must be careful. In recent days, the U.S. has warned that Beijing may send weapons to Russia. This will provide much-needed support to Moscow's nascent war effort and its depleted ammunition stockpiles. The Biden administration has warned China that such a move would have serious consequences. Beijing has forcibly turned down proposals to send aid to Moscow, but the US and its European allies are still on the alert. China has always told us that they don't supply arms to Russia and they don't plan it very clearly, EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell told CNBC on Friday. But we definitely have to stay vigilant, Borrell added. Meanwhile, China recently unveiled a peace plan for Ukraine, which was effectively met with a roll of eyes in Washington. I didn't see anything in the plan to suggest that it would benefit anyone other than Russia if the Chinese plan was followed, Biden told ABC's This Week program on Sunday. China's proposal called for respect for the sovereignty of all countries, but did not force Russian troops to withdraw from the Ukrainian territories they occupied. Richard Lawless, former Undersecretary of Defense for Asian and Pacific Security Affairs, wrote in the Wall Street Journal that China's peace plan was designed to move away from the obvious China's continued tendency to support Vladimir Putin. Xi Jinping and his team will continue use this crisis to China's advantage and act balance both sides, Lawless said. Similarly, Dreyer dismissed the peace plan, saying it was only an extremely naive, what appears to be a significant number of them, or a sham that those who hope for economic gain or fear China's economic sanctions will believe if they don't support Beijing's peace plan. Expecting the West reject China's peace plan, Dreyer said it was reasonable, use its overall intention as a cover supply arms Russia. However, Thornton suspects that China will send Lee weapons to Russia and become more involved in the war as it will put Beijing's ties with Europe at risk. But there are a lot of Chinese companies. This is a big country, things can happen, and if there are shipments they will be detected, things will get worse, Thornton added.